Greetings and welcome everyone. You're in the zone, the Biz Info Zone. And this is the Biz Info Zone show. I'm your host, V. Lynn Hawkins. Welcome. We are approaching the middle of March. Can you believe it? Already towards the end of first quarter. And, for me, the month of March means a lot of stuff, magic and miracles and money. Now's the time where you really get to see if you're actually hitting those goals that you set, those milestone goals that you set for yourself. But even more than that, we've been in the conversation over the last few weeks of leadership. What is leadership? What does it mean? Who are leaders? Are you a leader? And today we are talking about lead your life and live a life in balance. And it's really going to be a discussion about how you unpack your leadership so that you are, in fact, in balance and able to continue to lead and continue to live a higher life because you're in balance. My guest today is Bernadette McBURNIE. She's an IT corporate executive in the cosmetics and banking industries in Europe and in Asia, with over 15 years in the IT field with large multinational corporations, including 4 years as IT director for the French affiliate of the world's largest cosmetics company, and 3 years working in the banking sector. And what makes her so great is that not only did she live leadership, she's now teaching leadership because her career took her from Paris to Hong Kong, then to Japan, and now she lives in sunny, lots of times, San Francisco Bay Area. And, she also was in a position to put her career on hold to raise her family. She's passionate about helping people thrive in every aspect of their lives, and she assists people who choose to live active wellness. I often talk about how it's so important to participate in your own healing, in your own growth, and it's very important as it relates to being active and well. That equates into your business. So for Bernadette, the process of achieving a life in balance happens through collaborative entrepreneurship. And she is someone who totally empowers people to take control, to be at optimum health, and to live a life of their choice. I am truly about living life by design and not by default. In the zone, that's what we talk about, purpose and, having your strategic plan so that you can be at cause versus, victimhood. And then that also leads you to the place of prosperity, and profits leads to prosperity. She's a lady who has gone the journey and is now teaching others how to do their journey with more ease and vibrancy in life. So, hello, Bernadette. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Lynn, thank you so much for inviting me to be on the call. It's a pleasure. It's an honor, and I'm very humbled by the opportunity. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I'm excited to have you here to think about the fact that we've known each other for, 5-6 years maybe already.
Yes.
And we've connected on a number of levels, yet the thread I think that really gave us our bond and continues today to bond us is the work and the thinking and the teaching around leadership. So do our audience a favor, do me a favor, and tell our audience a little bit about how you got on this journey. World traveler, Hong Kong, England, and Paris, and tell us a little bit about your journey.
It's interesting. Is my journey in life is I have very often people ask me, where are you from? And I always say, I'm a citizen of the world. And I really, really believe that. The very practical things. I have Asian, ethnic background. I'm Vietnamese, born and raised in Paris. My husband is British. And you mentioned the number of countries where we lived. Our son is born in Japan. Our 2 girls were born in Canada. So we really have lived that international life, but by choice. I've always believed since I was a little girl that there was so much, I just felt it, that there was so much out of life and to live and to discovery. And I always wanted to explore it in every possible way that I could. So not even as a little girl, I just created opportunities, and as I grew up, to live that way. And really just be in touch with people from all over the world. So it's been just something that I just knew in my heart, Lynn. And then as I was growing up, becoming a young adult and starting to work, I just created and opened doors that would allow me to live that way.
Well, that is totally amazing. I love it. And, you have lived places that many of us just dream of being someday. And it makes me think, is life so different, especially as it relates to leadership, and living life by design? Is life so different in these other locations than what we're experiencing here in the States?
It's a very interesting question, Lynn. And I'll have to say there's obviously differences depending on the countries, of the culture. But at the essence of it, we're all very similar. I work with people from many different countries who live in different countries, different cultural background, different languages. And, quite often, one thing that I like to ask people is, what's your definition of success? Because for me, leadership is about that as well. It's about creating a successful life, which is, you talk about prosperity. For me, prosperity is, and I'm sure that many of the people, I know you agree to that, Lynn, prosperity is, it's not just about money, it's prosperity in every aspect of our life. So it's about leading our life, it's about creating that. So when I talk to people from all over the world and I ask, how do you define success? What's interesting is no matter who it is and where they live, the answers are always the same. So, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to have time to do the things that matter to me, I want to have enough money or financial resources to live the life that I want so I can focus on what is really important. It's everybody wants the same thing. But what I found out is a lot of us, and myself included at some point in time in our life, we aspire to that, but we're not sure of how to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gosh, I've got an echo going on. Okay, it's gone away. So that brings up another question, because that's a great point. We all aspire to live our best lives, but it's the process of defining that then becomes a challenge. I'll put it that way, because we are at so many different places in where we are in life. But, I do believe that when you have set the vision for your life, you can really enjoy the journey. And I go back to you as an example. You said, ever since I was a little girl, I knew I wanted to live these different places and, do certain things in my life. And I think that, even as CEOs of companies and, team leaders and performance leaders, we have to spend that time to create the vision for where we're going. I say there are two jobs of a leader: architect of the future and guardian of the mood. And so, thinking about that, give us your take on the importance of really spending the time to set that vision.
It's so critical, absolutely so critical. And I know that the process is, sometimes I hear people, but I'm not even sure about what my vision is. I'm not even sure about what that means. And that's a process. It's not something that we suddenly we wake up in the morning and say, oh, I got it. It doesn't happen that way. And usually, and that's why it's the experience, it's the journey that's really important. And I really believe for some of us it happens, we get a clarity fairly quickly, and for some of us it may take weeks, months, years to get to that point. But it's I really believe, first of all, it's very important never ever to let go with the desire to be there and to get there, and at the same time to enjoy the journey, because the journey is really what makes the experience valuable. It's what makes us who we are today and tomorrow. One thing I remember that maybe that can help some of the people who are listening to this is, years ago, Lynn, when I was, you mentioned my corporate career, and I absolutely loved my corporate career. But when I decided to put my career on hold to raise my children, I really made the conscious decision from that moment on that I would build my life the way that I wanted to live it. I made that conscious decision. And what that looked like, it's really interesting. Why did I do that exercise? I don't know. But since that day, I recommend everybody who I talk to do that little exercise, because I really know the value, what it gave me. And that exercise was a very simple. One day I took a notepad. I was on my own in my home. I took a notepad, and on the left side of the notepad, I put all the things that I wanted to find in my next career or way of life. And on the right side, all the things I did not want to find. And it was really interesting. One thing, for me, the control of my time is about deciding how I would live my life. And then all the things that matter to me. For me, family is a very, very important pillar of my life. And then my work in the community, I'm very involved in my community. That is something that really matters to me. What impact am I having around me? And then from a career standpoint, I didn't want to face the ceiling, glass ceiling. I've faced that a couple of times. It doesn't feel good. When you know that you are worth more than what the job you paid for, and somebody tells you, no, can't do it, and say why, and so all the things. And then the things I didn't want was, the corporate politics, and I also wanted to be around people who would, inspire me, I wanted to be within a community of leaders. And what I mean by leaders, it could be moms who never had a job but are taking leadership role in their community. I really believe that parents, we're leaders by nature because we're leading our family anyway.
Yes.
But very often we don't even see it that way. We don't think of it that way. I really believe that all of us have that. It's a matter whether or not we realize the leadership role that we. So that I would highly recommend to everybody to decide, how do you want to live your life? And then you have that framework to do it, and then take the time to implement it. There's a say that says leaders make a decision quickly, but take the time to implement it, because nothing worthwhile and worthy of us is going to happen in an instant. It doesn't happen that way.
I like that. Leaders make a decision quickly, but take the time to implement. Yes. And, growth takes time. And if you're a leader and, a leader of teams or a leader of a family, then you know that you have to take the time to think through, what's my strategy? And then from there, let's implement. Phase 1, phase 2. And, I often talk to people too who say, well, yeah, I'm in this leadership position, but I don't really consider myself a leader. I'm a leader of one versus a leader of many. And I'll just say the excuses that we sometimes make around accepting responsibility for being the leader that we're called to be. Would you say that leaders are born? Are leaders groomed and trained? Is it a combination of those two?
No, I don't know if necessarily leaders are born. What I will say is leaders can be developed as long as a person wants to grow. I think that is something that is really important. If a person decides, that status quo is where they want to be, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they want, then that's okay. But then I don't think that then, leaders for me are influencers.
Yes.
And that's the way that I really see leadership, is how do we influence people around us. Parents, again, we influence our children, we influence our community. In the business world, we influence our employees. If we own a business, we influence our competition, we influence others by inspiring them. We leaders are influenced, and by the way, in a positive or a negative way. So it's also important to understand is what kind of leadership do we want to have and to show. I'm myself is I really want to make an impact and make the world, and I know it may sound idealistic because we hear those words as I make the world a better place, and then it's a matter of finding our niche, because there's so much to be done in this world that we can't do it all. And there's another thing also that I believe a leader needs to realize is we need to do it, but we can't do it alone, because there's a limit to how much we can do on our own.
It truly is. And I love that you brought that up. Leaders are those who choose to grow into the responsibility of leadership, being influencers, whether parents or employers or even employees. If you're part of a team, you can be a leader. Competition, and I love thinking about the team, because most entrepreneurs are looking first to, what's the small core team that I can incorporate around me, and then it's the growth. So there's growth on so many levels that we're talking about, and when you are influencing other leaders to continue the personal growth, what are some of the things that you maybe tell them as influence statements, or just nuggets of influence?
Well, what I love when I work with people, as on one-on-one or as a group, Aline, because I do that quite a bit, is I always want to say, why do we do what we do? What is the reason? What is on purpose? Because I really believe that when we get clarity on why we do what we do, and that we are on purpose with who we are, things just flow. And that's when we, even unconsciously, we take that leadership role, because we are just who we are, and that's how we inspire others. So some of the nuggets, is why would you want to influence others? What is your motivation? What impact do you want to have? And yesterday I was talking to a young lady, 28 years old. So obviously her role is very different than someone else maybe who is twice her age. So the question is, what is the impact that you want to have? That's one thing. And why do you want it? Because when you know why, and that is really connecting to our heart and soul and our inner power, the what actually is going to be multiplied exponentially, because it's going to happen in a way that we don't even know how it's going to happen. But the why then is what really drives us. So I really spend quite a bit of time is why. And so when people say, when we talked about that today is lead your life and live a life in balance, that to me is so, it's really the essence of what I do, Lynn, is I want people to be able to say every morning, I live my life the way that I want it. I lead my life, and being an example, because I say when we're good to ourselves, we're good to others, we're good in the world. in the business, in the community, in every aspects of our life. But we need to be good and we need to be true to ourselves. So that's really, and so what is it that you are aspiring to become? What is it that you're aspiring to live? Because it's about experience. Because if it's not just about having, because quite often when we want something, then we get it and then maybe we get bored. Or it's not enough to fulfill us. So it has to go beyond that. You know, it's like prosperity in finances is very important. I'm all about it. Because, you know, in a way it's like oxygen. If we don't have it, we suffocate. Right? So when people tell me it's not important, I say, no, it is important. It's not what matters. It's not money that matters, but what it allows us to be. It's about having peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's about having peace of mind. It's about having the tool. To me, money is nothing more than tool. It's a tool. It's an energy that can be used for good. To me, that's what money is about. But I really believe that it's our responsibility to become very prosper and successful, because then we do much more good.
Mm-hmm. I have this thing, you know, earn more revenue, do more good. And,
Exactly.
you know, it's funny too, because, you know, my journey has been one of, you know, lots of money. I grew up poor, got into an industry and was able to make great income, and then got into entrepreneurship. And, you know, it was like I really, in hindsight, got to understand that I felt as though I'd moved out of my identity. I identified very succinctly, very strongly with being a corporate executive, with having the prestige that came with being a corporate executive. When I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur, however, I think it takes people into another realm. And I know that in your leadership trainings, a lot of the people that you work with may have been formerly in the corporate environment. Now, do you see a lot of people that you are helping to grow into their leadership, and through this leadership model of understanding more about who they are, being true to themselves, this identity piece coming into play?
It is, you know, and I remember, because I was there myself. You know, I also proved from my own experience. You know, I was a corporate executive, loved it, and that was my identity. And then my identity was suddenly gone because I made the choice of being a mother and stay at home, which I loved and never ever regretted it. This is one of the best things I ever done, to be able to build my life the way that I wanted. But it took me a while to adjust to that change, because society doesn't see us that way. You know, it's interesting. Very often when you ask people, what do you do? The answer is not what I do. The answer is I am. And the reality, and when I say to people, you know, who are, but in society world, that's how we see ourselves.
Okay, hang on one second, because I had a freeze frame there for a moment, and I want to make sure that our audience got this. Now, you started off saying that, you know, in corporate was this, and then I kind of lost you in there.
Okay, so let me, you know, when you were talking about identity, Lynn, and which is, you're absolutely right. We all have a certain image that we project, or society sees us in a certain way. And it's interesting, whether I talk to people from corporate or business owners, small or large business owners, it doesn't matter. Very often, when you meet a new person and say, you know, what do you do? The answer is not, I do real estate. The answer is, I am a realtor. And my answer very often, and that just to tease a little bit and to really trigger conversation, is actually, this is not who you are. That's what you do, which to me is very different. You know, I am who I am. My profession does not define me. My profession is what I do to allow me to be who I am, which I think is quite different. But that transition is it's quite often we have a challenge with that. So you're right, I do help in my work. That's part of what I help people do, is transition, so people can discover and then tap into their potential without the fear. Because it's when we do when we go into a direction that is new, it can be a bit scary sometimes, because it's unknown. And usually it's scary simply because it's unknown. It's not that a lot of time there's no reason to be afraid of, but we are just afraid because it's unknown. It's not familiar zone. It's not the familiar zone. It's like, quite often we talk about the comfort zone. That's another topic that I raise with people who I work with. We talk about comfort zone. And sometimes when people tell me about their comfort zone and they share with me their reality that they're living right now, it's not a comfort zone. It's just a familiar zone. Because very often I say, well, how comfortable are you in that zone? And very often people say, I don't like it at all. I don't like my reality. I say, but we call it comfort zone because it's known, it's familiar. And so it's all about, how do we look at this? So I said, so if it's not a comfortable zone, then it only takes 1 second. And I really believe that, Lynn, it only takes 1 second to change it. And that 1 second is when we make a decision to say, I'm changing it and I'm starting right now. And then it's taking the time and pulling a team around us to make it happen.
I love that 1 second. And that 1 second is all that it takes to make the decision. And, I think it really is important for people to understand that the work that we're talking about gets exponentially more difficult when you are trying to do it alone, because you may have the questions, but may not know how to interpret the answers. Or you may have the answers, but don't necessarily know how to ask the questions to bring them out of you. And I often talk to people that say, well, I can't afford a coach. I can't afford to go in this direction. I can't, I would love to, but how do I justify this expense when it comes to my personal growth? How do you respond to that?
It's true. It's always a concern, but I think it's really coming from a place of saying, it's of an investment. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of effort. It's an investment of money from time to time. But what's interesting, and that's a shift that I've seen in the last few years, there's many, many of us all around the world who believe in collaboration. And it's a matter of supporting each other. We all have talents. We all have talents. I don't care who it is, but I really believe that each and everyone have talents. And then it's a matter of, creating around us that circle that support us, or our tribe. We use that more and more, or being part of a movement that is looking for the same thing that we are looking. And it's amazing how much then the universe is able to provide us. So I think it's really going with that faith and understanding and belief that it's there for us. It won't show up until we make the decision. That also I really believe. Things won't show up until that decision is made and definite. Because how often, I'm sure all of us, we've experienced this, oh my gosh, I decided it's, and then suddenly things happen. Where are those people coming from? What's happening? Because we're putting that energy out there and we're getting response.
I love it. That is so key. It's, the adage that we've all probably heard, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When that decision is made, it's tremendous, the doors that open and the things that show up for you. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're talking about as far as creating this life by design. And there are so many of us, however, that even knowing that are still feeling like we're moving on shaky ground. And is that possibly because we're out of balance? And if so, what would you say to that?
You know, I think first of all, to, you know, the goal and the vision of wanting to live a life in balance is, I really believe, you know, this is the choice that I've made like many years ago. And but I really believe that, do I believe very honestly that we're in balance at any point in time? I don't think that's a reality. Yeah, because there's always something happening in our life that just throw us off, right? But the key thing is it's understanding that it's an ongoing working project. There are times in our life that we feel everything is just smooth and wonderful, but to expect it to stay that way, I don't think this is real. Because we change, we grow, you know, things happen in our family, things happen in the world, things happen in our work, things happen in our business, in other relationships that just throw us off. So I don't think we're ever forever in balance. I think it's really an ongoing working project. But the simple fact that we are aware and conscious of wanting to make it happen and wanting to live it every day, I really believe that then our daily choices will allow us to live as close as possible as we can to be in balance every day. I really do. It's all about choices. You know, it's like the compounding effect, Lynn. We all hear about compound effect, but very often we hear about the money side of it, you know, the compounding effect of the money. Well, the compounding effect is, this is a law that applies to anything that we do in our life. It's like if we make very poor choices food wise, we may not see it in the next weeks, in the next month, but we're going to pay for it down the road, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are.
So if we make poor choices with our money, we're going to pay for it also down the road. If we make poor choices in, you know, focusing on anger or frustration, we're going to pay for it down the road, because all of that is going to get trapped into our body, into our mind, which means we can't attract all the good things around us. So it's all about daily choices. And then so the attitude of gratitude, you know, but it's also acknowledging the fact that we are making progress. It's about enjoying the journey once again, but it's acknowledging that we are making progress. Too often I hear people saying, I'll be happy when I get there, or when I'll have that. And that always is something that bothers me, because I say, are you saying consciously or unconsciously you're not going to enjoy the journey? Because if it is, you're actually depriving yourself of the experience, the beautiful experience of life every day. And frankly, I don't think I really believe that so often I've seen people, those who say I'll be happy when I have that, so often I've seen when they get it, they're actually not happy anymore. Yes. Because now the question is, what's next? What's next? You know, if the goal is to say I want to be number one in this or in that, then once you're number one, is what's next? And so it's the growth. So for me, leadership, you know, about leading our life, it's the choices, the decision that we make. It's making a decision and then understanding that the choices that we make need to support that decision every day, so we get there. And then the choices will lead to actions, to a plan. And so it's all about understanding that everything needs to be in alignment in order to be there. And when we choose to live our life, you know, life in balance for me, it's every aspect. You know, when we talk about, it's about being healthy, because I really believe it's all about really taking care of ourselves. It's about self-care. We can't rely on the system. We need entrepreneur. First of all, I always say entrepreneur more than anyone else, which is not true. Everybody, but definitely entrepreneurs need to take care of themselves, because entrepreneurs To me, it's anybody who wants to lead their life. We are not meant to be in a box. We're not meant to be in a box.
You are so right. We are supposed to be, we were created to be beings at cause. And I love the analogy that you talked about, I'll be happy when I get there. And typically when I get there, it's like, oh, is this all? And the what's next? And that brings me to a thought around leadership and goal setting. I'm huge on goal setting. However, a goal is like what we just talked about. When you get there, you're like, okay, I'm here. I made it. This is the bird in hand. And then, okay, is that all there is? And then there's what's next. Versus, for me, it's about establishing milestone goals. And you can hear the energy in the word milestone that's different than the energy in the word goal. Goal is a hard word. Milestone is a movement word. And in a milestone goal, in accomplishing a milestone goal, you have this certain energy and thinking around it that is a place to pause and be grateful. And then, there is also the what's next, but it's a different energy moving off of the milestone goal to the what's next versus standing firmly on this goal. I made it, and I'm happy about it. Thank you. Or I'm disappointed. Is that all there is? And then having to get started on the next goal. When we line them up so that it is this continuous journey that you've been talking about, it actually allows for that continued forward movement. And I think it's key too, because, and I want you to speak to this, on the journey, there's left turns, there are right turns, there's forks in the road, there's, the mountain, it's hill, there's the steep downgrade, and navigating all of that, not just for yourself, but to help your team through these things, being the leader, to help your kids as the mom leader. How does the leader have to stand in that space?
It's a great question here, Lynn. And first of all, I think it's important also to embrace the fact that being a leader is not an easy task. Because, leaders tend to stand alone a lot of time, right? Which is why it's so important to surround ourselves from other people who are like-minded, because then we all share our experience, we all learn from each other, we all support emotionally in a practical way in many different levels. It's really important to have that support system, because leaders, it's not just about I am a leader and now what? Leaders to me is, first of all, I really talk about servant leadership. I really believe that's critical. Is, leadership means inspiring others for things to happen, for things to get better in whatever topic that we're talking about. Leadership is about it's about improving things. It's about making things better. It's about helping others grow. It's all about the impact that we want to have around us. So it's important, and that's why for each and every one of us is, but too often we think, oh, who am I to be a leader? And because it's true, sometimes we say, we hear those big names, big personality, but what's interesting is it's just that person that one day who decided, I am going to do something about this. That's what leadership is. I don't know, and I don't care if others are going to do something about it or not, but this cannot continue. I am going to do something about it. And then reaching out, because a leader is somebody who understands as well that it's about pulling that team around us. Leaders don't work alone, because leadership is about leading others. It's about leading ourselves, but it's about leading others. And then it's about attracting that team and then teaching those the same thing. So a leader never ever stop to learn. A leader never stop doing things and making things happen and performing. Leaders need to reevaluate themselves. I really believe that, because otherwise, it's if we're good, okay, but we can become great, and we become great by growing, by reevaluating ourselves, and then and then our vision grow. So and then it's about teaching others to lead at the same time. So it's that snowball effect. We start with one, and it's like starting at the top of the mountain with a little flake of snow, and then you roll it, and when it comes at the bottom of the hill, it's this enormous snowball. Well, that's what we do, right? Or you could say it's like the spider web. You start, you're the little spider at the center, and then you keep, and then before you know it, that spider web can go all over the world.
It is. And Bernadette, I just want to acknowledge some of those in our audience. And we have Vivekananda, Baindor Rao, and Roland Takaoka. And they are actually commenting out there. And Roland and Vivekananda have both said that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Roland says it's a mantra of his since age 15. And Vivekananda says he knows what that looks like. And then the collaboration, to look at collaboration and partnership and teamwork gets the job done, putting that energy out there. So, oh, and here is one other that I really liked. My occupation versus who I am. Awesome observation. And I wanted to bring that up because it really is about who we are. Being in the corporate environment, I have this title, but is that who I am? And being in the space now of what it is that I am doing, is that really who I am? And so leaders, being influencers, are creators of the next things, the next people, the next teams, the next whatever your work is. And how can leaders stand a little taller, be a little stronger, especially those who are just starting this leadership journey where they understand what this piece is all about, and they're wanting to move forward in a powerful way. But leaders and influencers know that there's a certain way to do that forward movement. Help us with understanding some of that.
It's leaders have dreams. We have dreams, and usually we have big dreams. And I want to say this, there's also a very big difference between having big dreams and being a dreamer. Because, having big dreams, it's about what do I need to do in order to actualize them, in order to realize them? And then it's putting in place, right? While being a dreamer, it's just thinking about it, but not doing anything to create them. That also, I believe, is a very, very essential difference, because very often, I have big dreams, but the reality is most people, when they say that, actually, they don't, because if they really had them, if it was really something that is fueling their soul, they would find the way or the people to make it happen, right? So it's really, I think, for each and every one of us is, what does our life look like? It is, and when as well. You're talking about milestone goals, Lynn, which is really important. Those milestone, it's what is who am I? What is my purpose here? What do I want to create and leave behind me? And then when do I want to do those milestones? because that's what's going to, it's really about focusing always on the milestone, and then understanding that the goals are just step towards it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to have those goals. We need to have deadline, because it's a way to measure that the work that we do is doing what we wanted. If we don't do that, then maybe we're not looking at it in a very real way. It's not real enough, because it's like there needs to be a way to measure progress. There needs to have ways to do that. So for me, when people say I want to live a life in balance, I say, well, what are the things that matter to you? And again, it very often it's my family, it's my health, it's the quality of my life, and that means time. It's my mind. I want to know as well that I'm growing, that I'm becoming something, somebody bigger, better than myself. It's the work in my community. It's the legacy that I want to leave behind me. It's my business as well, because my business is a way that all of these fuels. But then it's understanding. It's about moving forward all the pieces. And sometimes some of those pieces will move faster than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's normal. That's normal. But it's important always to look at it and say, okay, I cannot create imbalance, because if I focus 80% of my time and my energy on my business and I neglect my health or I neglect my family, how much of a balance is that? How much of success is that? And vice versa. If I don't pay attention to my finances and then I'm broke, well, that also doesn't create balance. So it's all about, but sometimes, yes, we have to put a bit more energy on one versus the other, but it's really important to work at it in order to move and to progress in each of the areas of our life that are important.
I totally agree. And I think that this is a space where learning is required, because we can figure some things out. We can observe and use leaders as a model for how it is that we may want to move forward in this journey. And that brings up something interesting too, because Vivekananda actually says, whoever calls himself or herself a leader is just a pretender. And it's the followers who have to recognize someone as a leader. Of course, that is his opinion, and I have my own. But how would you respond to that? I'm going to let you, because again, I have my own response to that. But I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, for me, it's leadership is about showing it. It's about showing what we do. I've had some times people say, I'm a leader. I say, well, show me. Show me what leadership means to you. To me, it's more through our actions. It's like what we say, it's about walking the talk. It's not just about having the talk. So, but at the same time, leadership doesn't mean that leadership does not necessarily need to be evaluated by others. Everything, first of all, it starts here. It starts at home. And when I mean home, I think it's not inside ourselves.
Exactly. First, lead self first.
That's right. Because when we, it's when we lead ourselves and we are true to our values, the followers and the followers, I don't even like that word followers, I'll be honest with you, because to me followers means that we are creating already a hierarchy between people, and I don't think I want to have people by me, not following me. I want to have people with me, not following me, because that's for me that's far more empowering. And then it doesn't create that sense is, if I follow you, then I will depend on you. I want to empower people and help them understand that decision are not, when we make certain decisions, they're never, a decision is very often not easy to implement. But is it worth it? Is it worthy of you? Is it worthy of your life? Is it worthy of your time? So that to me is what leadership is about, Lynn. It's, I see kids who are leaders. It's not even a question of age. Because they decide to stand on their own. They believe in something and they decide that's what they're supposed to be. That's what's right. That's a leader. And it could be a kid of 3-year-old.
I totally agree. And I love that you brought that in.
That is right. Yeah.
Yes. Because, it is, and I want to say that Roland has mentioned too that leadership requires someone to decide to lead. And even as a little kid who has no concept of leadership, when a need is seen and they see their ability to step in to address that need, it truly is something that they can look to and learn from. This is one of the things that I so admire about parents. Having been a single parent, I know how important it was for me to lead and empower my kids to lead themselves, learn what leading self means, because like it's the whole, even to lead others, you have to know when to put your oxygen mask on so that when you do, you can then help others, and being that example. And the alignment piece that you talked about, I think that many leaders equate themselves as being also social entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Taking on leadership responsibility means that that there's something bigger than you. What would you say your definition of social entrepreneurship is?
The social entrepreneurship, we can, to me, it's someone who wants to make their community, whether it's local or the global community, better, who wants to have an impact. And obviously there's hundreds of ways of doing that, but that to me is what a social entrepreneur is. It's about wanting, and not just wanting it, but doing good in our community, and doing it with a purpose. It's really, it's not just about doing business. It's doing business on purpose, with a purpose, and with the intention, the clear intention of improving something out there. And it could be as simple as helping one family with something, or it could be something really big, like a project where others step in and work together. So there's there's so many different ways of making that happen. But to me, it's all about doing business on purpose, with the purpose of wanting to make things better. And then showing a way, because showing a way to others of how simple it is to get involved. Because I think that's also what's important. A social entrepreneur is somebody who is putting out there maybe a great idea that does a lot for the good of the greater group, but showing others how they too can take part of it and involve our community. Because it's not enough to have a great idea. Again, we want to do it, but we cannot do it alone. And a social entrepreneur cannot do it alone. We need to show others how it's simple to get involved, and then assisting them in making that happen.
I love it. What a great example. Thank you for that. And I think it's clear that what we've talked about really is showing how to unpack the leader within, and allowing in that unpacking the process of continued unpacking, because leaders, as they continue to grow and do more, become more, we just allow the universe also to support us in our forward movement. And when I think about all that is yet to be done to help to heal the world, each of us can take a small piece of doing and implement something in that direction. So thank you for that, Bernadette. One last huge question, actually, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. There are so many of us entrepreneurs who are in this thing, goals and hitting the goals and earning the money and doing the this and creating the wealth for themselves, only to get to a certain point later in life and they end up spending their wealth to regain their health. That to me truly is a lack of balance. But how do you balance this wealth and health? And as you continue to unpack the personal leader within, what is your biggest suggestion?
It's such an important topic, Lynn, and thank you for asking that, because I really think that all of us need to really we need to take care of ourselves for the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our own family, for the sake of our business, for this, because if we don't have a health, we're in trouble. We're really in trouble, because quite often I say, our health is one of our greatest wealth, but too often we take it for granted. Too often we take it for granted, or we wait for something to break down. That's something that, in the world, in my business, I'm all about, my business in health and wellness and prevention. And it's all about keeping our families healthy all around the world. That's what I do. I've been doing this for 16 years and I absolutely love it because it's so rewarding. But, too often we tend to think we're invincible when we're young. And as we get older, we know, yes, I need to take care of it and so on. But I say, it's okay. And we don't give it a priority necessarily in our time, in our focus and so on. And I really believe that the more successful an entrepreneur is, the more they need to take care of themselves, because it takes a toll. Success takes a toll on the body and on the mind. That's just a fact of life. So it's learning about, what can I do to prevent things to break down? What are the choices? It's all about better choices. In the work that I do, literally I educate people how to make daily better choices that allow them to live at optimum health and to be vibrant. So I think it's, look at your stress level. Stress is part of our life. That's just a fact of life. But what do we do to manage it? What do we do to counteract the negative effects of stress? How is the quality of us? Am I really, repaired and rejuvenated when I wake up in the morning? If not, we need to address that, because sleep is the foundation of everything. Very often I work with fitness trainer, and that's what they do, in their profession. The trainer say, and they talk about fitness, and they talk very often about nutrition. And quite often I ask them a question when I talk to them. I say, well, how critical is, sleep and hydration? I say, it's everything. I say, right. But what do you tell to your clients who don't sleep well and who are not hydrated? Right? So it's all about looking at all the, it's, to me, active wellness is about wellness in every aspect of our life, in our finances, in the quality of the relationship that we have with the community, with ourselves, with our family, with our friends. It's active wellness. It's the choices in our physical health and well-being. What are the choices that we make? Because that, to me, is what prosperity is to have prosperity and abundance in every aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I think it's important that we know where we are today and always evaluate, if I could rate myself 1 to 10, 10 being the best that I could be in my finances, in my quality time, in my quality of life, in my health, where am I? And if I am not where I want to be, then the question we need to ask ourselves, who can I ask to help me improve?
I love it. I love it. And that is a perfect segue. I'm looking at the time and we are running a little late, but I want to let our audience know if you're still there and want to hang out with us for a little bit in the after show, on the after show in the green room, I'm going to be posting the link. But right now, I'd love to ask Bernadette to kind of wrap things up for us here. And then I know that you've brought something amazing as a gift for our audience. Why don't you tell us a little about that as well?
Well, to thank you, Lynn, and thank you, the audience is, there's a couple of things that I want to offer is, if any of you are interested, is I participated, I contributed to a book, which is more of a business book than a leadership group. It's more of a business book on what I do. I would be very happy to offer the PDF of that book. And the way to get that is you could send me a link, send me an email through my website link. And I think, Lynn, you're going to post that link.
Yes.
And so then you contact me through that website. Let me know that you connected to this, and I will be very happy to send you the PDF of that book. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, if you're interested to hear more about how I help people, how to create total wellness and live active wellness every day, then I'm very happy to invite you to give you a complimentary invitation to some discovery webinar that I have, and also a 30 minutes discussion with me on a one-on-one, and then we can go from there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited about the fact that we've been able to have this conversation and bring this information. Unpacking the leader gene has really been what this conversation is about, not just, leadership as I am a leader and let's go, the general pattern, but I am a leader of myself first. And because I am a leader of me and I care about you, I will help you as well. And I think it is that simple, as we've been discussing, as you've been sharing with us today about the topic of leadership and balance and really unpacking what is yet to come. Because a leader's journey, I believe that, a leader's journey is never done until the dash is done. We have the date we were born, the dash, and then the date we're done. That date is the end of the dash. And most leaders will tell you that it's not until the end of their dash that they have completed their learning and their work. And I think that you have relayed that message quite clearly today, Bernadette. Thank you so much for being here. And again, I want our audience to know that we're going to be hanging out for a little bit in the after show in the green room. So the link is posted. Come on in and join us. Continue this conversation and meet Bernadette. She's amazing and doing some really great work all over the world. So thanks for joining us today. Thank you again, Bernadette, for joining us today, for being my guest.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Lynn. It was really an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap the show right here, right now, but we're going to be looking for you again next week, same place, same time, same station, for another great show in the zone. You've been in the Biz Info Zone with VLynn Hawkins. I'm your host, and my guest today has been Bernadette McBURNIE. Bye, and we will see you next week. Bye for now.